Okay, let's begin. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Appeals, June 6th, 2022. Nice and full this evening, just the way I like it. The City of Peabody Zoning Board of Appeals meets tonight in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and other applicable laws. Tonight's hearing will be conducted in the following manner. The Secretary, Mr. Slattery, will read the legal notice or state that such notice has been waived. It's only waived if it's a continued hearing. All applications tonight will be heard in the order they were received in the City Clerk's office or as otherwise designated by the chair. The petitioner or petitioner's representative will present the subject application to the board. The chair may limit the length of all remarks. All parties in interest will be given an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition to a pending application, and the board may receive similar written communications to be placed on the public record. The petitioner will be given the opportunity to refute any such remarks. Let me explain that now in terms that you can all understand, since I probably lost you after the third sentence. How many people have never done this before? I've never been here before? Okay, so we are taking all the applications in order. When it's your turn, you come up to the podium, press the button, make sure you see it's red. First of all, state your name and address for the record, and then tell us why you're here. We have your application, but we'd like to hear from you why you're here, why you need dimensional relief, which is why you need a variance. Please make sure you stick to the subject. You want a garage because whatever, and you need some relief because the boat that you're putting in there doesn't fit, whatever. Please stay away from comments that are not pertinent to your application, such as, well, I'll go over that in a second. All right, so we've heard what you wanted, and then we'll ask you some questions. And then I say, is there anybody in the audience to speak in favor? And if there are neighbors here to speak in favor, they'll come up, state their name and address for the record, tell us what a wonderful neighbor you are, and they have no problem with whatever you want to build. Then I'll say, is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition? Here it gets a little entertaining. So your neighbors will come up, if there are any here, state their name and address for the record, and tell us why they oppose whatever it is you want to do. Now, if you're opposing, this is what I was started to say before. I need to know exactly why you do not want a garage or an addition too close to your house. I don't want to know that you don't like the neighbor. I don't want to know that the dog barks all night. I don't want to know that their leaves fall in your pool, and I don't want to know that their trash is all over your front yard. Makes no difference to us. We need to know good reasons why you don't want them to get the variance. At that point, we'll ask some more questions. If, in fact, you have any opposition, we give you another chance to come up and try to explain that. The best applications are the ones that you've already gone to your neighbor, explained what you're doing, explained that what you're going to build, and they understand it before you get here this evening. At that point, we make a decision and we vote. Yes, you're approved. No, you're not approved. We all can't get approved. We are very fair. I think we approve more than a lot of boards within our area. However, not everything can be approved. Otherwise, if everything was approved, guess what? You wouldn't need a zoning board of appeals. So if we ask some questions and we have some concerns and what you're asking for is too much, just know that, there are rules and regulations that we have to follow. We take a vote. At that point, the decision is typed and filed with the city clerk. Once the decision is filed with the city clerk, you have a 20-day appeal period, which you can't do anything for 20 days, whether you're approved or not. In compliance with the open meeting law, this hearing is also being recorded by our clerk, and once again, tomorrow, whether you're approved or not, you'll hear from Ms. McGrath, who knows everything there is to know, and she'll answer any questions you have. When you're at the microphone, please speak directly into it, and only speak when you're at the podium. We have a lot of people here tonight. I don't know if there'll be any opposition. If you come up and you speak, and then you sit down and you hear somebody else speak and you don't like it, please don't speak from your seat. I'll give you an opportunity to come back up. And at that point, we are finished and we are ready to start with number 1, which is Tedisco Properties, LLC, care of Stephen Tedisco. Go ahead.
Item number 1 on the agenda is the application of Tedisco Properties, LLC, care of Stephen Tedisco for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 3 George Road in Peabody, Massachusetts, map 032, lot 015. Petitioner seeks a variance and requires relief to right side yard where 20 feet is required and 16.7 feet is proposed, left side yard where 20 feet is required and 19.7 is proposed, front yard where 25 is required and 15.5 is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district.
Hi. Okay. I'm Alexandra Molly. We currently live at 21 Harrison Ave.
Steve Tedisco, live at 21 Harrison Ave.
What do I do now? Sorry, my architect was supposed to be here, so I'm nervous.
Okay, oh, don't be nervous. So let me ask you a few questions to get you going.
Okay.
So you bought a property at 3 George Road?
Yes.
And you haven't moved in yet?
No.
So why don't you tell us what you want?
So we're asking for relief in our right side yard, our left side yard, and our front yard. We're hoping to build a nice sized house for our growing family. We have 3 boys, and we're hoping to make it our dream home and stay here forever. We've been in Peabody our whole lives. My son goes to the West School and loves it, so.
Okay, so you're, excuse me, so you want to build an addition?
Yes.
Okay. I understand from the building commissioner that your original plan he thought was too large, so you drastically reduced this addition?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
true? Okay. Smart. Questions by the board?
How are you? You're
Good, how are
doing
you?
very well. I drove by the property. Can you explain to us why it looks the way it does today?
From what we understand from the previous owner, he was remodeling it for a family member, and then they made other decisions to go elsewhere, so he stopped where he was at and decided to sell.
So Chris, I can answer part of that. I know the previous owner, and that's exactly right. They bought the house for a family member, and COVID hit, and prices skyrocketed, and they decided to squelch all that and put it on the market. Any other questions by the board? Hearing none in the audience. Anybody to speak in favor? Excuse me. Anybody to speak in opposition? Hearing none or seeing none, the matter is before the board.
Make a motion to close the public hearing
Second.
and a motion to approve.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Wasn't that easy? Yes. You're all
Thank you
set.
so much.
Carla will get in touch with you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2,
Item number 2 is an administrative appeal of J.D. Raymond Transportation, care of attorney Kimberly Crowe, from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 15.6.2, as it applies to the premise known as 27R Farm Ave, Peabody, Massachusetts, lot 069-005A. Petitioner seeks an administrative appeal from the building permit issued by Commissioner Tellerico for 27R Rear Farm Ave. The property is located in a DDD zoning district.
Before we begin, I need a motion to accept the following correspondences. Correspondence dated 5/31/22, Panos memo in opposition with supporting 4/6/20 Hayes memo to Lucia Del Nigro of the Conservation Commission, and 8/13/20 a Hayes memo to the ZBA. 6/6/22 Brendan Callahan memo of Conservation, and 6/6/22 Attorney Croha memo. May I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have Attorney Kimberly Croha, the attorney for J.D. Raymond, to present.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, members of the board, Chair. I see you have a busy agenda. I'll be brief. We filed the appeal, as the board may know from the materials or remember. A comprehensive permit was issued for the project March 22nd, 2021. During that process, there was some back and forth as to whether or not the applicant needed to get state approval under the Wetlands Protection Act. This board did waive all of the local bylaws for wetlands, so it would be only a state matter. The applicant responded that they did not believe they needed to get state approval. They were relying on wetland delineations from when they had a roadway approved that led to the project. And when the comprehensive permit issued, it included a provision that the applicant must demonstrate that they have received all required local and state approvals before they could get their building permit, before they could get the building permit. The building permit issued March 25th, 2022, and another one dated March 28th. We filed an appeal within 30 days. The issue that we're raising is that they were in fact required to get a state Wetlands Protection Act approval. We filed a request for determination of applicability with Conservation Commission. That hearing is up for discussion June 15th. We recently filed a letter enclosing things that are in the the Conservation Commission file, which had to do with the earlier DEP number. As a primary start, the wetlands delineation is only good for 3 years. There are a lot of state jurisdictional wetland areas right around basically 3 points of this property, and they're draining their stormwater into the wetlands. This isn't a technical issue that we're raising as an abutter. We've filed our stormwater permit. They're draining stormwater into these shared wetland areas. All we're looking for at this juncture is for the state to take a look at the application, which is required, and which is beyond the scope of the comprehensive permit. This board deals with a lot of 40B and are aware that you can waive local, you can't waive state. So whatever is a requirement of the state is a requirement regardless of the fact that this is a 40B. So the comprehensive permit in paragraph 14 requires that the applicant obtain and pay for a third, well, not the city would obtain, but pay for a third-party peer review to confirm compliance with the building code, fire code, and all state and federal statute and regulations. The building commissioner did respond and say that he went through the checklist of what was required before a building permit, and all of the local boards and jurisdictional authorities from the city had signed off on that. The issue comes up is that this is a state requirement, and there doesn't appear to have been any check to make sure that it was taken upon by the applicant as they were required to do under the comprehensive permit. What I'm asking for tonight is for the board to either use its authority under the comprehensive permit and take the steps to engage a peer reviewer to take a look at the state issue, or at least continue this hearing until after the June 15th Conservation Commission hearing takes place. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Panos, do you have anything else to say to this?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. I'm joined by Anthony Capicetti of Hayes Engineering, who, as you know, or as at least three of you having sat and unanimously granted the comprehensive permit, know, has been involved in this matter, particularly with regard to that comprehensive permit, and also in all matters related to the notice of intent and order of conditions filing with the Conservation Commission. I'm here representing the residences at Farm Avenue LLC, which was lawfully issued a building permit by the building commissioner, Al Tallarico, pursuant to a comprehensive permit, as I indicated, unanimously granted by this board in March 2021 for the construction of 116 apartment units at 27R Farm Avenue. I'm going to take up as little of the board's time and attention on this as possible, which is really what this matter deserves. My comments are detailed in my letter to the board of May 31st, 2022, with attachments. J.D. Raymond is asking for this, of this board to overturn the proper and lawful decision of the building commissioner to issue a building permit to the residences because of its alleged failure to request a determination about applicability with the Conservation Commission, as they allege is required under the Wetlands Protection Act. So the question before the board is, should Commissioner Tallarico's building permit be overturned? And we say resoundingly no. The determination of the building commissioner to issue the building permit was lawfully considered through peer review that, by the way, the residences paid $40,000 for, and must be maintained as a matter of law. To punctuate their point, they filed a self-serving and frivolous request for determination of applicability on the residence's 27R Farm Avenue property, which will, as a matter of law and engineering, and you'll hear from Tony briefly after I'm finished, result in a negative determination. Why didn't we seek a determination in the first place? Well, because it simply isn't required under the Wetlands Protection Act. Neither through the comprehensive permit either, which exempted and waived from applicability the residences from all Peabody local ordinances, including the Wetlands Ordinance, nor, as I indicated, the Wetlands Protection Act, which does not have jurisdiction over this area of resource area, which is strictly local jurisdiction under the local ordinance. Don't simply take our word for it. Their own currently pending notice of intent filing agrees with our wetlands determination that it is not jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act. That is a fact, and it is a matter of public record. If any of this sounds familiar, by the way, to those of you who sat on the board, and there are three of you, with regard to this comprehensive permit, it is because we addressed this issue in great detail, resulting in an 8-page letter to the board copying the Conservation Commission and the acting conservation agent under the comprehensive permit, which shows that no work under the comprehensive permit was proposed or contemplated near any jurisdictional resource area. That letter is attached to the material submitted to the board with my May 31st, 2022 correspondence, and is offered simply to refresh your memory, and obviously you have a couple of new members of the board today. So in summary, as noted in the comprehensive permit, matters related to the project, the comprehensive permit project, are confined solely to the Wetlands Protection Act under Massachusetts general laws. The WPA, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, does not require the applicant to file a notice of intent or an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation or a request for determination of applicability. to determine the extent of jurisdictional resource areas on the property because no work is proposed within any of the protected resource area or buffer zone, and the Conservation Commission has no jurisdiction accordingly. The Residences is not required to seek a request for determination because under the Wetlands Protection Act, it is entitled to rely on delineations established in its notice of intent filing with the Conservation Commission on November 1st, 2016 for the construction of the site access road, the gravel contractor's yard, for such determination, and no determination, as I indicated, is required under the Wetlands Protection Act. The Residences is not proposing any work within any jurisdictional areas under the Wetlands Protection Act, and therefore any further relief under the Act to allow for development allowed under the comprehensive permit, is not required, and therefore that building permit was lawfully issued. J.D. Raymond, as I indicated, their own resource area delineation recently submitted to the Conservation Commission in their unrelated after-the-fact notice of intent filing currently under consideration agrees with that set forth in the Residence's previously filed notice of intent from 2016, which is still outstanding because only a partial certificate of compliance has been issued. We will be seeking through the Conservation Commission a full certificate of compliance, which we expect to receive. But on the other hand, J.D. Raymond is currently in violation of the zoning ordinance for its illegal operations at the adjacent 25 Farm Avenue property, as cited by Commissioner Tallarico in his May 2, 2022 letter. J.D. Raymond is in current violation of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Peabody Wetlands Ordinance, and they are also cited with a cease and desist by the Peabody Fire Department for current and ongoing violations of the fire code. They are in no position to refute the lawfully permitted uses of the 27R Farm Avenue property conducted by the Residences under its validly issued comprehensive permit and the building permit issued pursuant to it. In conclusion, and I'd like to invite through the chair, Tony Capichetti, to talk a little bit more about why there's no jurisdiction here. But in conclusion, I would ask this board to please uphold the determination of the building commissioner to issue his building permit by voting no to overturn it. Thank you.
You have something to add to all of that?
Very, very briefly. Tony Capichetti, Hayes Engineering, 603 Salem Street, for the record. Again, this project, wetland line, has been thoroughly vetted. We filed with Concom for the roadway access. The wetlands were reviewed. Order of conditions was issued. That we then needed to get a 404 water quality certification through DEP. DEP was on site, reviewed it, and that was issued. We then had to go get an Army Corps permit. Army Corps was out there, reviewed the wetland line, issued the Army Corps permit that was required. We then came back in front of this board. The question was brought up as to whether or not we needed to file a request for determination. Horsley Witten looked at this project from an environmental standpoint. No recommendation was made. And just to summarize, I took the sheet C2 that was in the opposing counsel's memo dated today and just added some color to it. And basically it shows areas in green on Farm Ave are the BBWs, subject to state jurisdiction. This may look familiar. It's the same chalk that I put up during the 40B hearing. The areas in yellow are isolated wetlands and isolated replication areas. Those are local jurisdiction only. All the work is occurring from the end of the driveway forward. No work, even if we blew this delineation by 200 feet, we still wouldn't be within 100 feet of the wetlands. So that's essentially what it boils down to as far as the technical aspects of it.
Thank you very much. So, I have been over and over and over this. It sounds like there was a complete disconnect between the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Conservation Commission. Attorney Panos, do you have anything in writing from the Conservation Commission stating that you do not need an RDA?
No, but they never responded to our correspondence, which we sent to the board. They were clearly noticed of it. They had certainly the opportunity to provide responsive memorandum to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay.
And so we believe that that rests. And we gave an over hour-long presentation to the board on this very point.
Okay, I'm going to read a memo from Brendan Callahan, Department of Community Development and Planning. Based on the recent notification of appeal letter dated April 20th, 2022 to the Peabody Zoning Board of Appeals, and a letter from Kimberly Crowhart, Esquire, dated June 6, 2022 to the Peabody Conservation Commission, I recommend the Peabody Conservation Commission require the applicant for the comprehensive permit application for the development known as the Residences of Farm Avenue, at a minimum, file a request for determination of applicability with the commission. Something is wrong here. I don't know what it is. I think we need to delve a little further into this. At this point, I would like for someone on this board, and do you have a question?
Through the chair, I just want to say that since this is already on the Concom's agenda in less than 2 weeks, I think maybe the permit holder should go to Concom and see how they opine on a certificate of compliance.
Well, this is my suggestion. I would like for someone to make a motion to suspend the building permit until you apply for the RDA with the Conservation Commission. Once that determination is made, you can come back before this board. We will continue until July 18th. We read the memo from Brendan Callahan. That's my feeling. And that's my feeling. And I think that it's the only way to go because there's a complete disconnect for this whole thing. We need to get to the bottom of it, and I do believe that an RDA with the Conservation Commission is needed. So if you can get it done in a month, that's great. If not, I need a motion, if you so desire, to suspend the building permit until an RDA is determined, and you can come back to the board and tell us what it's all about. That's my feeling. And now we wait.
So through the chair, June 15th, that's when they're going back before Concom.
July 18th?
No, June 15th.
Oh.
Is that what the June 15th?
Yes.
I'd recommend at least that the appeal be continued to at least till Concom gets to deliberate over the matter. And
So then we have to
suspend
come
the
back,
permit.
suspend it till July 18th.
Okay, well, so moved.
Can I have a motion to suspend the building permit at 27 Rear Farm Ave until Conservation Commission makes a determination?
I thought Keith already moved.
So moved.
A second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Number 3, Frank Bertolino Jr.
Number 3 on the agenda is the application of Frank Bertolino Jr. For a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.1.5, as it applies to the premise known as 54 Newcastle Road in Peabody, lot 064-167. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct a detached garage and requires relief to accessory structure size where 500 square feet is allowed, 784 square feet is proposed. Accessory structure setback where 10 feet is required and 6 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1A zoning district.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joe Bentoncourt. I'm an architect with the design studio at 14 North Central Street here in Peabody. I'd like to refer to sheet number 2, if you have the packet in front of you. Sheet number 2 shows the existing plot plan to the left and the proposed plot plan to the right. So if we look at the existing plot plan, we see there's a simple, single, undersized one-car garage with a side setback dimension of roughly 5 or 6 feet. To the right, on the proposed plot plan, you can see that what we would like to do is to construct the new 28-foot by 28-foot garage and simply push it back, but maintain the side setback. Roughly 39 feet from the rear setback. If we go to sheet number 3, this gives us sort of a 3D view of what we're really talking about. So up in the left-hand corner is the existing garage. And the primary image that you see on the sheet is really what we're talking about as the proposed on page number 3. So the idea is that even though we're asking for a little bit more square footage, we want to make sure that the look and feel and the scale and sort of the character of this garage is in keeping with the neighborhood. As we know, there are some beautiful homes there. Just quickly going through sheet number 4, simple elevations. You'll notice the left elevation, which is the one that abuts the left-hand side. We're showing no windows. That's for privacy. And just simply flipping through number 5, this is more of a technical section. But the important thing here is the 20 feet 8-inch height that we're complying with. And then the last 3 views are really, again, just more about the look and feel and the scale. We are asking for a little bit more on the square footage. That's for additional storage. But we want to make sure that with a little bit of extra detailing and scaling and things that we can do to make sure that it fits in, that it complies with the character of the existing neighborhood. Thank you for the opportunity. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, it's too large, in my opinion. It looks like another little house. You are allowed 500. You're asking for 700, almost 800 square feet. My suggestion to you right now is, if you would still like to build this, my opinion, you need to cut it. You need to cut it back. I'd like to hear from other people on the board, please.
Yeah, I agree with the chair. We've seen several of these very large garages come before us in the last, I don't know, probably year and a half or so. And for my opinion, I have less of a problem with the width, because I understand it's a 2-car garage. I get that. Where I've tended to have most of the issue in the past is when you have that 28-foot depth. I think it's even an F-150. Even the biggest extended cabin in F-150 is, I think, 20 feet or 20 feet and 6 inches, something roughly around there. So it adds a huge amount. I understand you probably want extra storage on the back side of it. I get it. But it really is just, I think, just a little oversized.
Is there a dimension that you could suggest that maybe there's some precedent that clients can sort of go back and review?
I'd be happy with 625, but
My original thought was 650, but they're all in the same ballpark, so.
anybody else?
Yeah, I agree. Somewhere in that mid-600 range is a lot more reasonable. Something around that puts you around that 22 by 28, 23 by 28 kind of dimension, which is a lot closer to the 500 we allow.
Okay.
Coming up with 640, 630?
Well, a 22 by 28 would be 616, but I mean, it's a foot is not going to make a massive difference.
So you can agree to scale it down. You can talk to your homeowners and see if they agree. We can continue this till next month. It's up to you. Or we can vote right now on 784, and I think you know where that will go.
Mm-hmm. Could I have 30 seconds just to? Thank you for that, yeah. So I think what we'd like to do is we will reduce the size. Whether it's 22 or 23, we're not quite sure. We'll look at
No,
the
we have to have an
proportions.
exact amount tonight.
Oh, tonight.
Come back.
Let's, 25 by 25? Perfect.
So you need a plot plan revised, and you are agreeing to set this back down to a size of 625 square feet? Okay, that's what I thought. So Okay, so we need the new plot plan as soon as possible. We're going to vote on the accessory structure size of 625 square feet, not 784. Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Any other comments by the board? Now the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve the amended application with a 25 by 25 square foot garage.
Second.
And, and a new plot plan ASAP to Carla.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much, yes.
And sorry, just to confirm, the 6 feet is also voted on, correct? We had the square footage and also the 6 foot.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, that won't.
Number 4, Charlie Schlitcher.
Number 4 is the application of Charlie Schlitcher for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 18 Arnold Road, Peabody, Massachusetts, lot 108-294. Petitioner seeks a variance for 12 by 21 feet open deck and requires relief to left side yard where 15 feet is required and 9 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1A zoning district.
Name and address for the record. You have to turn it on, honey. Turn the
Hi,
button.
I'm Harold Gaff, Charlie Schlicker's nephew. Hi, so I'm Harold Gaff, and I'm here on behalf of Charlie Schlicker, just because he can't hear that well.
So put it up a little bit, step right into it.
Okay. Okay. Want me to go start over?
No, go ahead.
So,
Tell us why you're here.
oh, so I'm here to, well, he is here to try to put a 12 by 12 deck on the back of his house. And right now, the egress that he has is in tough shape, and it's going to have to be repaired either way. So he's just thinking more or less maybe while he's at that point, if he could just put a deck there, that's all.
You can put a deck there, then, were you going to finish that sentence?
No, that was all.
Questions by the board, comments by the board? In the audience, anybody to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, you're all set. You'll hear from Carla tomorrow. Thank you. Number 5, 6 Crockmill Road.
Number 5 on the agenda is the application of Charles and Andrea Evers for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 6 Crockmill Road in Peabody, Massachusetts, lot 101-147. Petitioner seeks a variance for an open deck and requires relief to side yard where 20 feet is required and 14 feet is proposed, lot coverage where 25% is allowed and 30 is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district.
Name and address for the record.
Andrea Evers, homeowner, 6 Crotchmore Road.
Good evening. Charles Evers, 6 Crotchmore Road.
So we're proposing a 16 by 22 deck, composite deck. There's currently a deck that's actually slightly larger than that there right now. The reason we're applying for the variance is it was never properly permitted. So we're actually making it slightly smaller with composite. Right now it's really unsafe, rotting wood and pulling away from the house. We bought the house 7 years ago just assuming it was permitted, and that was part of the reason we bought the house, was we like that outdoor space. So we like to continue being out there, but safe and properly permitted.
That sounds very good. Thank you. Questions, comments by the board? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Matters before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 It was probably the quickest approval we've ever had.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Number 6 is 73 Bartholomew Street.
Application of Angel and Mary Fernandez for a variance from the provisions of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.1.5, as it applies to the premise known as 73 Bartholomew Street, lot number 115-011. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct a detached garage and requires relief to accessory structure size where 500 square feet is allowed. 616 is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district.
Name and address for the record.
Robert Zulli. I'm the representative and general contractor for the project. We're looking to build a 22 by 28 garage in Peabody, but you guys only allow 500, and we're looking for 616, so 116 extra square feet, if that's okay. We do meet all the other setbacks, though, including max lot coverage, so we're in compliance everywhere except for that little caveat.
Right, so that's a little bit less than what we just heard. And your lot is substantial. It's fine to me. Yeah.
Through the chair, is there already an accessory structure on the property?
No.
There isn't? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 I don't think you beat the other ones, but you're pretty good. Yes, thank you. Number 7 is 20 Manamet.
Number 7 on the agenda is an application of Drew Caldez for a variance from the provision of zoning ordinance 2020 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premise known as 20 Manamet Road, Peabody, Massachusetts, map 032, lot 068. Petitioner seeks a variance for an addition and requires relief to right yard setback where 20 feet is required and 16 feet is proposed. The property is in an R1 zoning district.
Name and address for the record.
Good evening. Thank you all in advance for your time. My name is Drew Caldis. I'm the homeowner of 20 Manamet Road.
Alyssa Palmisano, 20 Manamet Road.
So Alyssa and I are proposing an addition which will be 24 by 30. It is to demo the existing garage that is in place, enlarge that garage with an additional living space above to accommodate our growing family. We're getting married. We're having a baby in October. We're very excited about that. And we are looking to expand the house. We are the third generation owners. The house has been in my family for 62 years, and we hope to continue that.
So the attached garage with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, that's it, just 2 bedrooms and a bathroom,
2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and an office.
and an office. No microwave, sink, stove.
No, ma'am. No kitchen.
Questions, comments by this board? Hearing none.
Just one comment is that this seems to be a trend in this area. I saw at least 3 other houses that had pretty much the exact same thing done, a couple on their side, I think one on the other side, so it does look like it's in fit with the neighborhood.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
You are approved. So now we have part of our special meeting this evening. We are going to hear from Attorney Seligson on the appeal to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development, Housing Appeals Committee, on the denial/compromise coming up on 40 Oak. We also have Mayor Betancourt that would like to speak. Attorney Seligson, would you like the mayor to speak first? And Mayor Betancourt will speak after Attorney Seligson.
Thank you.
Let's start again. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Damon Seligson. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Sheehan, Finney, Bass & Green in Boston, and I'm counsel to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Peabody. This is the permit of 40 Oak Street Development LLC for a comprehensive permit under 40B. This was initially filed by the applicant on May 22nd, 2019. There were public hearings starting in August of 2019 all the way through to June 21st of 2021. The initial application sought approval of 80 residential rental units consisting of 72 units in a 5-story building, 4 residential stories above 1 podium parking level, plus 8 units in 2 3-story buildings, 2 residential stories above 1 podium parking level, containing 4 units each. That was the original project. The board closed its public hearing on the application for a 40B permit on June 21st, 2021. The board then issued a decision on July 26, 2021, which was to deny the application. The applicant, 40 Oak Street, filed a timely appeal with the Housing Appeals Committee on August 13th, 2021, and the committee convened a conference of counsel shortly thereafter and then ordered the parties to go to mediation. After numerous discussions and a mediation that covered a number of days involving representatives from the city, including Mayor Betancourt, council, the petitioner, members of the board, the parties resolved that appeal through a settlement that is now in a revised reduction of this project to 72 units, from 72 units to 54 units residential, 4 residential stories above a podium parking level with a bedroom count mix to be determined by the applicant, the elimination of the 2 townhouse-styled buildings and associated access driveway and parking at the rear of the site, northerly on the proposed emergency access gate to and from the property via Elliott Place and Little's Lane. The creation of dog walk and tot lot areas, as well as flood storage mitigation area, surface detention pond at the rear of the site to accommodate additional stormwater and provide flood storage in the event of a 100-year storm, as well as reduction in the overall parking to 100 spaces, and the layout of the project will be substantially in conformance with the plan entitled Settlement Plan in Peabody, dated February 16, 2022, prepared by Hancock and Associates with landscaping substantially in conformance with the plan of land entitled Landscape Plan, dated January 17, 2021, prepared by Catman, Corp. So essentially, this is a substantially reduced project, and it ended up through mediation. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mayor Betancourt to give his thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Damon. Good evening, board members. Thank you for your volunteer work on behalf of the city. It's greatly appreciated. This was a tricky one, and certainly I can get into many details about the history. There's been a long history to this property over at 40 Oak Street, the Elks property. I can certainly answer questions or speak in detail if you'd like some information on some of the history to this. But it's been several years kind of working its way through a number of legal maneuverings, and it's brought us here today. When it was denied by this board, the appeal was to the Housing Appeals Committee. We were requested to have a mediation session with them. At first, we denied that request, and then we were notified that it is not a request, it is a requirement that we have a mandatory mediation session. We ended up having 3 mediation sessions over a period of a couple of months. Myself, Attorney Seligson, Attorney Don Conn, our city solicitor, Kurt Bellavance, and then the chair, Fran Gallucci. During that period of time, there was a number of discussions about the project, about the number of units, the location, different flood mitigation efforts that we can do. I think you know the property. There's been flood issues in the past, and we certainly felt that 80 units in this location was way too much for that neighborhood. It's 1.6 acres we're talking about. During the course of the mediation, it became very clear to me, and I had already suspected this over time in dealing with a number of other housing matters and dealing with the state, that we have very little leverage in terms of handling these type of cases. We've had our own struggles here in the city of Peabody. We were under our 10% requirement under our affordable housing. We're now actually over that 10% right now, which allows us more leverage and gives us more ability to hold firm on projects or negotiate. But being under 10%, we didn't, which is when this Elks property was filed. It is very clear in the state, the governor has been very open with the need and their demand and their request to create affordable housing in all cities and towns. It's further been emphasized and became even more clear with the recent announcement that all cities that are MBTA communities are required to have 50 acres of affordable housing that we have to create. Now, we do not derive much of a benefit from being an MBTA community. We have a couple of bus lines that run through our city, but we certainly don't have a commuter rail that would be a great asset for our city, but we do not have that. However, we are an MBTA community, and we are an abutter to commuter rail, which then requires that we have 50 acres of affordable housing that we as a community have to come up with. Kurt Bellavance presented to the City Council some information that we have. It's ever-changing information. We don't have a clear picture of what the requirements are going to be. But each city and town that's an MBTA community is required to provide 50 acres of affordable housing. That can be broken down into smaller sections. However, one must be a minimum of 25 acres. That's certainly a discussion for another day, but the point that it certainly makes very clear is that the state is demanding of cities and towns to create housing. So when we had our conciliation and mediation sessions with the Housing Appeals Committee conciliator or mediator, it was very clear to us that we were going to have a tough row to hoe here, and to be able to succeed in this appeal. We started looking seriously at some sort of settlement. What was important for me, I don't want to speak on behalf of our group, it was thoroughly discussed. But in terms of my opinion, we needed to try to reduce the number of 80 units as much as possible, try to get some flood mitigation work to be done in that area, and to come up with some amenities for that neighborhood. So we were able to eliminate the townhouses, the 8-unit townhouses that were in the back, and then we reduced it from 72 to 54. So it would be a reduction of 33% or just about 33% from 80 units down to 54. As well as there's a requirement now for a play area, kind of a tot lot play area for kids. There's also going to be a dog kind of walking area, as well as a retention center, a water retention center that will be built that I think will have a great impact on some of the flooding issues in that neighborhood. Certainly not ideal. I'm not going to come up here and say this is something that's going to be wonderful for our community, wonderful for the neighborhood. But being in my position, seeing our history, seeing the demands of the state, and we're playing where this is a appeal that goes to the Department of Housing and Community Development, which to me has made very clear what they want. I just felt that this is a settlement that I think is in our best interest and in the neighborhood's best interest, rather than rolling the dice. And it would go to, just so you know, it would go to the Housing Appeals Committee. If we did not have a settlement, it would go to an eventual hearing. They make a decision. Then either side would have the right to appeal. So this could go on for a year, 2 years. However, I do not like our chances in terms of the future litigation here. 80 units compared to 54. We'd reduce the parking from 126 spaces to 100 spaces. The parking ratio would go from 1.57 to 1.85, so it's better parking, more spaces created, and then those amenities, particularly the flood mitigation, was very appealing and attractive to me, and I think will help the neighborhood handle their water. So I'm asking for approval of the settlement. It is, again, I don't think it's the ideal in terms of how I would like this to go, but considering where we're at, considering the state objectives, and considering the needs of that neighborhood, I think this is the best way to go. I don't want to roll the dice and then have 80 units put in that site, which I think would be extremely detrimental to that neighborhood. And I think this is the appropriate way to go. Happy to answer any questions on this item.
Questions? Thank you very much.
So we have the decision for you, the revised decision that's agreed to as part of the settlement. Carla's going to give it to you guys to review and hopefully approve. Thanks, Carla.
I'm just wondering if anybody in the audience has any comments at all on this? Okay. Thank you, Carla. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the decision. Are you going to read it into the record, Damon? Attorney Seligson? Going to read the decision? The settlement agreement?
Well,
Is it necessary?
I don't believe it's necessary to read the settlement. I can represent for the record that the board and the applicant have settled their dispute through the Housing Appeals Committee as a result of the mediation that has resulted in the revised comprehensive permit decision that you have. I've read most of it, so I'm not going to read the entire decision because it's a number of pages and in the interest of time. But
Okay, that's fine.
if you want me to...
No.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion, have somebody make a motion to accept this into the record.
So, yeah, I motion to accept the settlement agreement as executed and place it on file.
Now I need a motion to accept. Oh,
Second.
and now I need a motion to accept.
A what? Oh, I'll make a motion to accept.
Second?
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. So at this point in time, excuse me, the decision and the compromise for 40 Oak Street has been accepted and approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Thank you. We are now going to also have Attorney Seligson come up to the podium and give us a little background on 128 Newbury Street, and then we will have Attorney John Kelty representing the applicant to give us an update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Damon Seligson. I'm an attorney with Sheehan, Finney, Bass & Green in Boston and counsel to the board. This is the application of Maple Multifamily Land SE Limited Partnership regarding 128 Newbury Street in the city of Peabody. Initially, just as a historical background, on October 7th, 2021, the applicant filed a permit application seeking a comprehensive permit under Chapter 40B. On November 1st, 2021, the ZBA opened the public hearing, and at that hearing, the ZBA claimed safe harbor under the applicable Massachusetts Code of Regulations governing permits under 40B. On March 30th, 2022, the applicant resubmitted an application for a 40B permit for 128 Newbury Street. On May 16th, 2022, the ZBA opened the public hearing on the resubmitted application. On or about the 17th of May 2022, the ZBA claimed safe harbor via written notice to both the applicant and the Department of Housing and Community Development for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Subsequent to that invoking of safe harbor, representatives of the applicant and representatives of the city, including the mayor's office, met, and a proposed smaller reduced project was discussed, and as a result, the ZBA has sent written notice to the Department of Housing and Community Development rescinding its initial invocation of safe harbor, and so now the board will open up the public hearing on the application for a 40B permit on 128 Newbury Street.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Attorney Kelty, if you'd like to come up and give us an update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This matter having been sort of in a circuitous manner back before the board, we have signed our contracts for peer review. We have submitted them back to the city. We are now hopeful that they will be executed by the mayor, and we will be out for peer review and returning at your July meeting with a hopeful comments from our peer reviewers and our ability to speak to those issues at that time.
Great, thank you. I did say, and I'm going to hold to it, that from the onset, which was last month, where we just heard the overview, and I said from that point on, I will take public comment. So if there is anybody at all tonight that wishes to comment on 128 Newbury Street, we will hear it. I would imagine as time goes on and we get more information, that would be the time that people comment. But if there is anybody here this evening that would like to make a comment on 128 Newbury Street, you can come up to the podium. Yes, you may. State your name and address to the record. Yes, you may.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Saliba. I live at 1801 Hollow Tree Court in Peabody. I also live, it's the Huntington Wood neighborhood that abuts this project. I'm actually happy something is finally moving forward there, for now. I'm also the business agent for the Heat and Frost Insulators and Allied Workers Local 6. I'm also the vice president and treasurer for the North Shore Building Trades. The North Shore Building Trades represents 16 different trades who are able to negotiate family-sustaining wages for its members. Many of our members live in Peabody, so I asked a small number of them to come out tonight so they can show their interest of wanting the chance to work in the city they live and pay taxes in. Gas prices being what they are, I'm sure they'd love to spend extra money here in Peabody businesses. I would also like to convey to Chairman Crow that the building trades are ready and able to bring your project in on time and on budget through residential and blended rates and a trained workforce second to none. This is my third time reaching out to Mr. Huntoon. Not much luck on the first two times. I'm hoping the third time is a charm to open up a dialogue so we can find a way to put Peabody residents to work. Thank you.
Attorney Kelty, do you have any comments on this? Attorney Kelty, do you have any comments on this? Attorney Kelty, do you have any comments on this?
That we do have the gentleman's card, and we'll engage in conversation. Thanks.
And that will go down on the record. Great. Yes?
Hi, my name is, hello, board. Thanks for speaking. I'm basically going to piggyback a little bit on what Jeff said. My name is Joe Nardelli. My family has lived in Peabody since 1969. I moved back here about 7 years ago. I was in North Andover. I live at 11 Hoover Ave in West Peabody. Again, I'm with the Painters and Allied Trades. I'm a glazer by trade. We do glass work, things like that, paint, drywall finish. I went to school with Mayor Betancourt, was a year ahead of me. I've been in the building trade since 1988. I started at the Window Washers Union at 14 years old, and it has provided a life for me that I can afford to live in West Peabody. I feel that local residents, with the prices going through the roof around here, good, honest work for honest pay is what is really needed in these times. I would hate to see a project of this size go to people from outside of the area, having to watch them. What we do is we watch for things like wage theft and all kinds of stuff, and it happens. It's a reality. Companies come in with low numbers to just get the bid. So I'm just touching on that to say that I think the people of Peabody that work in the city deserve to get this work so they can continue to live in this city, like you said, to pay taxes.
So you're all union workers,
We are.
and you are different
trades.
locals,
Different trades, yes.
different trades, different locals, but all within
We all live in Peabody here.
No, but I mean your base, whatever you call it, the business manager, that it's all within Boston or whatever?
Well, my territory covers Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine,
okay.
Vermont, so on and so forth.
So loud and clear, we're hearing right now that we would like to have union workers within our Massachusetts, but more importantly, workers that live in the city of Peabody to be considered
We'd like to get invited to the
seriously
table.
for this project.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else to speak? Or did I say that correctly? Okay, any other public participation on this project? All right, so we are going to continue this. I need a motion to continue this to the July 18th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will see 128 Newberry Street and hopefully peer review, whatever else you have, and maybe information on, maybe a little early for the trades, but we'll see, on July 18th. Thank you very much. I need a motion to accept the following correspondences. 53122 Hayes Memo, revised plans, 53122 revised parking plan, and, oh, I'm sorry, I just went way quickly to 58 Mills. We can do that now. Yep, and 6622, a Captain Dowling fire memo. May I have a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are now going to hear the continued application of the residents at the Mills, 58 Pulaski Street. We just accepted all the correspondence, and now we will hear, I believe, Attorney Panos to give an update, and then Mr. Greeley, and then I believe Mr. Capichetti. Mr. Panos. Attorney Panos.
It's okay. Jason Panos, for the record, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. I'm joined by the project principal, Mr. Edward Greeley, Tony Capichetti from Hayes Engineering, and Scott Thornton, who will, from Vanessa and Associates, who will give the parking or traffic, rather, analysis presentation. Of course, today we're limiting our comments and remarks to traffic and parking. By way of administrative update, I've been in touch with our peer reviewer coordinator, Bob Langley, and he assures me that peer review contracts are forthcoming. So within the next week or so, we anticipate having those contracts in place, and hopefully we will encourage that parking and traffic be analyzed immediately so that we can be in a position to have feedback back and forth in time for your July hearing, and hopefully wrap up that issue. Tony, could you just, yeah, right there. So you guys came for a site visit last Friday, and we're very thankful, and we were very happy to host you through the site. And among the many things that were discussed through that tour, and something that I believe bears repeating, the current front of the building will be the back of the building, and that is depicted here. That part of the building that is oriented away from 50R Pulaski Street. That's a picture of the entrance and the green space that's proposed in that little alleyway. With that, and through the chair, I would like to invite Mr. Greeley up to share his vision and talk about why it is we made the parking plan and traffic modifications we did, which are in your plan or your packets. So, Mr. Greeley, right behind me.
Good evening, Board. My name is Ed Greeley, 58 Pulaski Street. I'll talk briefly just about the essentially how the project lays out. How potential folks that would be residing on the in the building. Building A is where the proposed housing is being located. How the residences would come into the property and exit away and out of the property. Like Attorney Panos mentioned, the view that we're looking at right now is what we consider the front of the building. The residents, as the residences, will be entering the property from what is now the rear of the building. So essentially, the building in the rear is being converted to the front. No residential traffic will enter into Pulaski rear. It'll all be guided through the back of the building. The access road itself, Pulaski rear, we're going to be opening up the road several feet. If you can look at briefly building C, right on the corner, there's a guardrail that currently sticks out approximately 14 feet. We're going to be cutting that guardrail back several feet, which is going to open up the road. We're going to be doing away with a few, I believe Anthony will confirm this, but a few 3 of those front parking spaces, which will allow for easier access for box trucks, 53-foot trailers, large oversized vehicles entering from the Danvers side of Pulaski Street. If you're traveling down Pulaski Street and you're going to enter into the left, that roadway, if you're pulling left onto Pulaski rear, we're also going to be broadening, bringing back and opening up the road on that side as well. So entering into Pulaski rear for oversized vehicles is going to be more efficient and better and easier for oversized vehicles at the time that the project is completed than in compared to what it exists today. There is, I met with, who I believe is still in attendance, Captain Dowling of the Peabody Fire Department and also Captain Richards of the Peabody Police Department. And the reason I wanted to involve the local municipalities is because really when we're talking about traffic, we're talking about public safety. So I wanted to get professionals' points of views. And on our original plan that has been since updated and amended, there was a plan for a small raised median pulling on. And on the plan that a few of the abutters received, that median was 6 feet wide. After having met with one abutter specifically, Mr. DeLand, who's sitting over there, I agreed to bring the medium from 6 foot down to 24 inches and make that medium at grade. And that was taken from the suggestion of the Peabody Police Department. They said, if anything else, what it acts as, it's a speed mitigation tool where drivers who are really not familiar with the property, they'll see visually at grade a median, and they'll just instinctively slow down. Hopefully, at least that's the plan. Also, right now, nowhere on Pulaski rear does there exist any speed traffic devices. I plan on, again, at the behest of public safety, I plan on improving that. We are going to install right at about, if you're familiar with the property, where the concrete, at one time was a loading dock that sits in the front of, directly in front of Building B. We're going to be putting a speed traffic device that will be installed for a speed limit of no less than 15, no more than 20 miles per hour. And it will thank you for doing the speed limit. It'll also be equipped with flashing lights and will be solar powered. Each of the 3 buildings, buildings A, B, and C, are approximately 65 foot wide. So all we're asking potential visitors to the property, existing abutters, employees, employers, all we're asking is when we pull initially onto Pulaski rear, at least for a couple of 100 feet, just to drive responsibly. Drive with discipline, drive with care. Right now, because of a lack of speed mitigation equipment and mileage signage, and it's not really the folks that go to work there every day. It's not really the businesses and their employees. A lot of times it's we have customers that are barreling into one of the supply houses further up the road, and they just don't really have a respect for for folks that are walking around. So again, we'll do a 24-inch at-grade median. We're going to do a traffic device that will thank you for following the speed limit. And we're also going to use horizontal with Building A. We're going to put an at-grade crosswalk, which will allow folks to get in from the customer parking lot located directly in front of Building D, which is where you see the little, the pointer kind of circling around. You'll be able to get from that parking lot directly over to Building A, and then able to travel through, whether it be Building A or any one of the businesses in Buildings B or C. I want to point out, a point of emphasis would be the parking lot in front of Building D. It is a parking lot that it will be, on the original plan and the notice that the abutters received, if you were parking there, you were going to be backing out of the parking lot onto Pulaski Rear. I've since changed that, and again, that was at the behest of one of the abutters, just in commonsensical conversation. And essentially what I've done is I've enclosed that parking lot, no different than what it currently exists today. We're just going to do away with concrete jersey barriers, and we're going to replace it with something a little bit more aesthetic that ties into the rest of the residential development. And one more point I want to add. With the residences at Building A, right now, what we have is the majority of the folks, when they go to park on the left side of Building A to enter into one of those businesses, they pull onto Pulaski Rear, and then they take a right around the corner of Building A to park in that parking lot. What I'm going to do is we're going to install two-way do not enter signs. So the residences in that parking lot at Building A will not be allowed to pull onto Pulaski Rear. So the goal is to maintain less traffic on Pulaski Rear with the residences at Building A. Essentially focusing to use what will then become the front of the building, which is now the back of the building, for their access. I feel like our ability to make that happen will be, I think we'll do a good job at managing it. Again, where we own the property, we're going to be maintaining the property and supervising the property, and any of the conditions related to supervising the traffic flow, that'll be up to us to manage. But we will have those do not enter signs, so they can't pull onto Pulaski Rear. So the businesses that have been operating in Building A for the better part of the last going on 4 years that have been using that road, I think we'll have less traffic on that road not being able to use that road with the residences. Okay.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to have the secretary read the memo from Captain Dowling.
Yep. So I'm going to read, So I'm going to read this correspondence to be written into the record. It's a memo that reads, to the Zoning Board of Appeals from Captain Christopher Dowling. It's regarding 58 Pulaski Street, Fire Department Access and Travel Control, and it's dated June 4th, 2022. The memo reads as follows. The Peabody Fire Prevention Bureau has reviewed the proposed parking and traffic plans for the mills at 58 Pulaski Street. The proposed parking plans provide adequate access for fire department operations and have the approval of the Peabody Fire Department. The fire department is also in support of the proposed traffic plan to slow down traffic and to provide safer pedestrian access. Any modifications to the proposed plans shall require the approval of the fire department. End of memo.
Thank you. Now,
We got to accept it.
I'll second that motion to accept.
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Mr. Capichetti?
Actually, before Tony pops in, I just want to reiterate what came out of our site visit. That comprehensive parking plan shows parking for the entire compound. However, buildings B, C, and D are not subject to this comprehensive permit application. And because parking for buildings B, C, and D are being reallocated among different lots, because those properties are separated, are separate lots, we will be coming in probably next month with a parking variance application to allocate some of the commercial parking that's shown on that comprehensive parking plan so that it can all wrap up at around the same time this hearing wraps up. But I just want to make that clear for the record. We're only talking about Building A with regard to the comprehensive permit application before you. Next month, perhaps in August, we will be talking about that comprehensive permit, that comprehensive parking plan. Thank you. Tony?
Thank you. For the record, again, Tony Capichetti, Hayes Engineering, 603 Salem Street. I think Ed did a great job presenting the changes. He's been very involved in the project, and if anyone's been out there, you can see how much care and pride he puts into the property. So I'll be extremely brief. As Ed said, we did widen the access ways. They were 12 feet wide previously in either direction with the 6-foot median. Now they're 14 with the 2-foot median to a full 30 feet of pavement as it enters. The roundings were staked out in the field. They're designed for a 67-foot articulated tractor trailer, what's called a WB67, which is a large interstate tractor trailer. So those can navigate in and out of the site to get to Wayside if need be. Again, we flipped the parking, as Ed pointed out, where the lower B is. So that you pull off the access drive. There's no backing out from that side onto the access drive, and we're constructing a guardrail with sidewalk that funnels all the pedestrian traffic down to a single crossing point, and then we're adding accessible sidewalks along the entire front of the building. And the speed signs, as Mr. Greeley pointed out, there'll be the speed-aware signs. I'm sure you've all seen them driving around the streets. They have the posted speed limit and then your speed, and slow down if you're going too fast, or thank you if you're at the speed limit or under. Tonight's meeting was over traffic, so I'll stop boring you with the site details, and Scott Thornton from VAI is here to give you an overview over the traffic impacts to the site.
Good evening. For the record, Scott Thornton with Vanessa & Associates. We prepared the traffic study for the project, and I'll be brief. And I would say that the changes that Mr. Greeley identified are definitely beneficial to reduce the speed of traffic through the parking lots, and any kind of traffic calming measures would be seen as an improvement through there. So our traffic study looked at 3 intersections that were really scoped out by the city engineer. In terms of overall project traffic, we're expecting the site to generate, or the project to generate, about 20 trips during the peak hours, the morning and the evening peak hour. Looking at the intersections that were in the study area, they're all below the District 4 crash average, so it didn't indicate any real safety issues there. The intersections continue to operate with acceptable levels of service under the future condition with the project, and the traffic volume increases due to the project are pretty minimal, between 0.7 and 2% during the peak hours, and likely to be less during the rest of the day. The next slide just touches a little bit on site distance. Again, we've got adequate site distance. We're really looking at stopping site distance is the controlling criteria here. And we've got adequate site distance for the speed that's posted for Pulaski Street. There's also a criteria for intersection site distance, and the site driveway intersection with Pulaski Street is a little short on that based on vegetation that's in the area that's obstructing the view. However, that can probably be trimmed back and cleared to provide the adequate distance. But in any event, we have adequate stopping site distance, which is really the controlling criteria. The next slide shows the level of service, just a summary of the operations there, both for the future build, well, for the existing condition, and then the future no build condition without the project and the future condition with the project. And you can see that in terms of the delay, the level of, there's not really any changes in the level of service, and the delays increase due to the project by, on average, a second or so. There's one change where we go from level of service B under no build to level of service C with the build. That's an increase of 0.1 seconds during the morning time period. So that's not something that's likely to be noticed by people traveling through the area. And then the final slide for traffic is just a summary of what we're proposing. And these were proposed prior to the changes to the site plan, where there was a big emphasis on traffic calming and reallocation of the parking supply. But this really is, these are standard recommendations to address the traffic control with stop signs, stop bars that should be consistent with federal guidelines, which is the manual uniform traffic control devices, and shouldn't be, kind of custom stop signs or custom stop bars. Signs should be maintained. Landscaping should also be maintained to be below any lines of sight. There are going to be public transportation schedules that will be posted, as well as opportunities for car and van pooling. And we're proposing that the site will join the North Shore Transportation Management Association. And also bike storage will be provided. So I think that's it for traffic. If you have any questions,
Thank you
let me
very
know.
much.
Sure.
Public comment. Anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on this? Yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair, honorable members. My name is Bill Sheehan. I practice law in Peabody, Massachusetts at 8 Essex Center Drive. And I'm representing tonight VRRM LLC, Sideways LLC. Those two entities own the 13-plus acres that are immediately adjacent to the subject property to the northwest. In addition, they have as a tenant a company that they own, Wayside Transcorp. And I'm very new to this whole project. I was retained this morning. I've had a chance to take a look at some of the paperwork, certainly not all of it. I would just tell you our concerns, and as I understand it, there's going to be a peer review of the traffic and parking, so there's lots of work to be done, and I understand. We are concerned about those two things. We're certainly concerned about the notion, as I saw it from the plans that I've seen, where people were going to be backing out from parking spaces onto Pulaski Rear. A recipe for disaster as far as we were concerned.
Backing out onto Pulaski Street, Mr. Greeley?
Onto Pulaski Rear.
Could you comment on that, please? Because I think that needs to be cleared up.
Yes, the original, there had been a plan that had been circulated originally with cars being allowed to back into Pulaski Rear. That has since been amended. The copies that the folks of the board received show that that has been eliminated, and the parking lot that exists in front of Building D, as it is today, is not going to change. There'll be one way. Right now, there's actually two ways into that parking lot, and with the improvements, there'll be one way into that lot and one way out. There will be no backing out into Pulaski Rear. So no businesses will be interfered with.
So you probably have an older, legitimate concern, but that's all cleared up.
Well, I hope so. The last plan that I...
You just heard it.
The last plan that I saw was, I think it was a revision of May 31. But if there's been a more recent revision, that's great. I'm sure that Attorney Panos, to whom I introduced myself this afternoon by phone, he and I will be able to take a look at all those plans.
For sure.
We were also concerned about the ability of trucks to get in and out of there, off from Pulaski to Pulaski rear safely. I understand now that traffic lanes have been widened and so on, so we'll take a look at all of that. And as I understand it, all you want to talk about tonight are those two subjects, traffic and parking. We do have and so I take it at some point in time, I'll have the opportunity to address whether or not there should be residences at all in this industrial park, which I take it is for another time.
I think you can talk about that tonight.
Okay. As you know, this site, residential use is not permitted. It was never designed to be used for residential purposes. When there was the most recent rezoning, as I understand it, the Mill District, again, residential use not permitted. And here we are having proposed 51 residential units right next to my client's 13 acres where truck traffic is heavy, truck traffic is loud, truck traffic could be seen, I suppose, as obnoxious by some. There are going to be trucks backing up in the middle of the night. There are going to be trucks that are being loaded. What we are concerned about is our ability to continue to operate our business and our tenants' ability to operate their businesses as they have been and as they should be in an industrial area.
I'd like either Attorney Panos or Mr. Greeley to comment on that right now, please. Mr. Greeley.
I have full respect for the statement. I've also been hearing that for the better part of 3 years. My only response to the noise from truck traffic is that anybody that would pull up to that property, and I've heard it for the better part of 4 years, a lot of us have. When are they going to put apartments there? When are they going to allow condos there? I've been listening to that for 4 years. There's a certain population of people that find the property fascinating. They really find the building like comfortable. And nobody would pull into that development and assume that the traffic is going to be like a whisper quiet environment. I use the analogy, it's like moving into the North End and expecting everything to be silent. It's not going to happen. But we did have a good recommendation, and we are going to be installing it into our leasing, is that there's going to be a terms and conditions and understanding as it relates to living in the Mill Overlay District, that noise is going to be a part of everyday life, seeing that this is where the property exists. And I think my ability to be able to have it not be a problem is, my advantage is I'm managing the property. No different than I manage the commercial tenants there now. If there ever is an issue, we are there, we deal with it one at a time. We're going to be able to deal with the residences there in the same fashion as well.
And just as a note, so I live on Lowell Street, not that that matters, but where I live is a direct truck route to Essex Bituminous. I believe that's what they still call it, the Hot Top place, if they still call it Hot Top. And we have trucks going up and down Lowell Street from 7 a.m. till 4 p.m. Buses, mail trucks, UPS. I'm not minimizing what you said, but what I'm saying is, I have to agree with Mr. Greeley. If you're going to rent an apartment there, you have to realize that there will be truck traffic. Horns, I'm there quite a lot. I don't hear any horns. In fact, to be quite honest, that truck traffic is less noisy than it is on Lowell Street. I don't know if you've been there quite a lot. I'm there quite a lot. And I'm not just saying that because I want to hear myself talk. It's the truth. But legitimate concern.
Well, it's nice to hear from a fellow Lowell Street resident. I grew up at 263 Lowell Street and lived there for many, many years.
582.
And the concern is this, that I'm sure that Mr. Greeley would instruct his residents that they should be aware that there could be noise. And I couldn't agree more that it would be obvious to someone who goes to the site to see that it's an industrial use. The problem is that the law in Massachusetts doesn't afford what I would consider to be a commonsensical defense to the folks who are using the property for industrial uses. Many states have what we call a coming to a nuisance defense, and that would take care of this situation. Massachusetts doesn't have that defense. So that's the concern. In fact, I mentioned it to Mr. Panos earlier this afternoon, and we'll continue, as I say, we'll work on those things. But just to introduce myself, introduce my clients, and the issues that we have, and look forward to working with everybody as we go forward.
Thank you
With that,
very
unless
much.
there are any questions, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you.
And just to add to that, we will be in continuing dialogue with all of our neighbors, particularly with regard to how to make that comprehensive parking plan make the property function better, more efficiently, more effectively, with considerations of all concerned. So,
Anybody else to speak in favor? Okay. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Dave DeLand, 58 Pulaski Street, DeLand Electrical Supply.
Land?
Yes.
From Salem?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Used to be. I closed that. We're in Peabody for 40 years. And I've been in that industrial park for 40 years, and I know that industrial park. Adding 300 parking spaces will create an incredible amount of congestion in that park. In addition, the throat of the park, where people are going to come in and out of, there is perpendicular parking on the entryway, in addition to a loading dock, in addition to residential parking spaces on the road itself, which is going to create pedestrian traffic, which is going to be a real safety hazard. I'm very concerned that the traffic study indicated that there would be 232 passes on the road just from the residential component of the business. It didn't consider the present businesses that are already up the street and accessing the business, in addition to the tractor-trailer trucks coming in, the commercial vehicles coming in, my employees coming in, the UPS people coming in, the DHL people coming in, the FedEx people coming in. All those people are coming through that access point, and it's going to be a tremendous point of congestion. Now, Ed has done some work to try to mitigate that, but I think we got a few more steps to go.
And I agree with you. Once again, we had a site visit, and Ed saw firsthand, which he does anyways, he practically lives there, the amount of truck traffic and the speeding, and I'd like to hear from him again, but he is very, very well aware. And I have some other concerns that I'm going to hold for next month, but he's very, very well versed in trying to fix all these concerns. But
I
I'd like
agree.
to hear from him again to
I agree.
discuss what you said.
We had some good conversation, Ed and I did. I think we can do more. I actually do.
In the, we did, Mr. Deland and myself, we had excellent dialogue, and I did in fact take a couple of his suggestions in that parking plan. Where we have a difference of opinion, which is okay, is I have a building right now. Well, one thing, it's not going to bring an additional 312 spaces to the property. That real estate already exists. It's just yet to be paved, but we are already parking on it. We're not bringing any additional parking to the project. There might be a few spaces up the street. The reality is, and I'm sure Mr. Land has noticed, right in front of his property, there's still there's employees from other businesses parking off the side of the road in that dirt area. The only thing I'm going to do differently is I'm going to clean it up and I'm going to pave it. But as it relates to the project, and he mentioned that he felt as though this could bring more congestion to Pulaski Rear. Well, my response to that is I have a building that's 65,000 square foot and it's practically empty. Let's say hypothetically I didn't put any residential in that building, and let's say hypothetically I built out 65,000 square foot of commercial dwellings, and let's say hypothetically, you know, another 50 to 75 businesses moved onto that property. If they are commercial businesses, chances are they're going to be working somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 to 5. I think we could all agree that if I did do that, theoretically, and we did have those 75 businesses, and each of those businesses did bring with them 2 to 3 more vehicles, that would in fact have more an effect on congestion on Pulaski Rear during regular business hours, as opposed to not doing that and then having folks have to work. If they're living there, chances are they'll be employed, hopefully. They will probably leave the property somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6:30 in the morning, like the rest of planet Earth that's gainfully employed. They'll go away for the day, and then when folks like Mr. DeLand and his employees are going home somewhere in the neighborhood between 4 and 5 p.m., they're leaving, and then we have folks coming now back onto the property to simply sleep at night. So my argument, not argument, but my, I guess, dialogue with Mr. DeLand, it's a difference of opinion. I believe my project takes congestion away from the property during 9 to 5. That's all I have.
And make no mistake, traffic is going to be one of our major concerns.
Ed and I are going to disagree on that. I think we're always going to disagree. My point is, I think commercial properties have less density than residential properties, and that the economic benefit of commercial properties is greater rather than residential. So we disagree.
That's fine. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much, Mr. DeLand. Anybody else to have any comment at all? Yep, come on up. Can't talk from your seat, remember? I don't mean can't, I mean it would be appreciated. No, please. Give me your name and address for the record, and you can just say one word if you want, but...
My name is Meg Kelly. I inherited Wayside Trailer when my husband died of COVID 2 years ago. For the past 2.5 years, my daughters and I have turned the company around. It's an amazing story, and I'm very proud. But my concern is that road is a dead end, and where people will turn around when they go in is a big concern to me.
So do you mean 58 Pulaski Rear is a dead end?
Where does it go? There's no place to turn around. I mean, you just have to turn around. And my concern is people turning around in our driveway. It's already a concern.
But are you concerned with the residents, people turning around?
I'm concerned with the activity, yes. I'm just concerned about that road being a road that is a dead-end road. And where will people turn around when they come in?
Where do they turn around now?
Well, there's not as much traffic as we're projecting.
We're talking about people that are going to enter through basically what now is the back of building A, B, and C, parking right next to building A,
okay,
and then leaving the same way.
Okay.
So Pulaski Rear is like commercial vehicles, and I don't think that anybody that's going to get an apartment is also going to have a tractor-trailer
To my knowledge,
involved.
last I knew, there was parking planned for the sides of the road. We didn't get an update. As neighbors, we haven't heard anything until we got a zoning board invitation.
Well, I'll fix that for you. Mr. Greeley, anybody here that has concerns about the traffic, the parking, this young lady, could you make it available to them, what exactly is going on, so there's no confusion from this point on?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a couple of items. I did, in fact, sit with Mr. DeLand, and I reviewed the updated plan with Mr. DeLand as I have already done with you folks. And also, Ms. Daigle met with the folks from Wayside, and maybe there was miscommunication or misinterpretation, but be more than happy to do. And I was under the impression that we did show them, Julie.
How about can you
plan?
give them a packet? Can you give them?
Absolutely. That's not a problem at all. Yeah. We
So
can
that
provide you
way
with that.
there's no confusion. It's not she said, he said, did they meet,
Yeah,
didn't they meet?
and I would also, we're neighbors. I think we see each other probably once every week to 2 weeks. If there's ever any questions, I mean, we've done it in the past, just come over, ask, and I'll be more than happy to tell.
I think that giving them something concrete.
But I will do that, yeah, absolutely.
It's perfect. You're welcome. We all set?
Just a couple points of clarification on the parking. So all the assigned residential spaces will not be able to access or egress from Pulaski rear. There's a small amount of visitor spaces and pickup drop-off spaces. The right-of-way is sized, as well as the parking spaces that a vehicle could back out and reverse direction and go through. As far as the number of parking spaces, the 303 is what's required for zoning for all the uses combined. When we come in, having gone out there and reviewed and counted, number of parked cars during the day, it's very excessive. When we come in for our comprehensive parking plan, if the number of spaces is a concern, we don't mind requesting a variance to the number of spaces and providing some backup if that's something that the ZBA would consider. But we figured zoning compliance made sense for this project.
So, that's great. However, you have your spaces for the residences, and you have spaces for the businesses. Personally, a variance for parking is not going to fly with me. I think that parking needs to be really, and I believe Mr. Greeley has done it, seriously considered, and we will expect nothing less than exactly what's required and would love to have a little bit more.
No, again, the number of spaces is based off of the zoning, and that's how we determined it. Again, we don't think all of them will be full on a regular basis, but that's why we're providing so many line spaces. But as Mr. Greeley said, for the most part, the pavement and flat land exists. Some of it's gravel currently. We're making improvements to the area. And again, if there's access or egress issues that abutters have, we're going to be repaving out there. If there's something we can add in to make things work better for them, I'm sure we can accommodate that in the design.
Any other comments by the board or anybody else in the audience that wish to speak on this project now? Okay, then. Let's see. I need a motion to continue to July 28th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll see 58 Pulaski Street and everybody else involved on July 18th. Thank you very much. July 28th, July 18th.
2-minute recess.
Did I say 28th? 18. Thank you. 2-minute recess. We're now ready to hear the application of the Tan Right Residences LLC, care of Attorney Jason Panos, and we are going to read it.
All right, pardon me. Next item is the application of the Tan Right Residence LLC, care of Attorney Jason Panos, for a Chapter 40B comprehensive permit as it applies to the premise known as 39 Wallace Street, 4 and 8 Upton Street, Peabody, Mass., map lot 085 011 085 010 085 009. Petitioner seeks to construct 140 rental units. The property is located in a GBD zoning district.
We begin, I need a motion to accept the following correspondences. 5/12/22, Del Nigro memo from the Conservation Commission. 5/12/22, Talarico memo from the Building Department. 5/31/22, Burnson memo, Community Development. 5/18/22, Langley memo, DPW. 5/31/22, Councilor Peach memo. 6/1/22, Moakley memo. 6/1/22, Capichetti memo. 6/1/22, Amico memo, Chamber in favor. 6/1/22, Vidiera letter in opposition. 6/2/22, Bellavance memo. Motion also to accept 2 correspondences from Councilor Ann Manning Martin dated 5/16/2022, 5/16/2022. May I have a motion to accept all those correspondences?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, they are accepted. Ready for the presentation.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jason Panos, for the record, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. I'm joined tonight by Thad Smasco from SV Design, our project architect, Tony Capichetti from Hayes Engineering, who is our engineering project coordinator, Scott Thornton from Vanessa & Associates, who has provided you with a traffic report, and one of the project principals, Nick Ambiliotis, who is the manager of Tan Right Residence LLC. And it's our pleasure to introduce this development to you. It's one that we've been working with various stakeholders for quite a while, and we're happy to report that we got full-throated support from Kurt Bellavance from Community Development. You read or accepted his correspondence in the record, who, on behalf of the Community Development Office, wrote to lend its full support to the Tan Right residential project located at the corner of Wallace and Walnut Streets. There's an excerpted quote there. I won't read the whole thing for purposes of time. Beth Amico, we are also equally as happy to have the Peabody Area Chamber of Commerce support, who also wrote a letter indicating that that organization's support when considering mixed-use development projects similar to the one proposed by Tan Right Residences LLC in the downtown area, encompassing the areas of Walnut, Wallace, and Upton. And I encourage you, to the extent you have not yet read the correspondences, to read them at your convenience. I want to just spend a little time talking about the motivation and inspiration in what resulted in the plans before you in your packets. The first of which was a study commissioned by Community Development, which prescribes a set of downtown design standards specifically for the Walnut Street, Foster Street sub-districts. And of course, we're on the Walnut Street district. Those design standards resulted in a set of guiding principles by which each development or redevelopment project ought to meet and we meet basically all of them: to enhance an active and vibrant downtown, improve walkability, reinforce context-sensitive development, define street walls and public spaces, strengthen a park once downtown. For reasons you'll hear, we confine all of our parking within the site, where a 5-minute walk to the downtown to Main Street to support the businesses there. We have the wonderful Peabody Veterans Memorial Park directly across the street, anticipate the Riverwalk coming into place, bike trails that will be installed on Central Street. All of this is in proximate location to our property, and now a working tannery, we hope, will be the cornerstone of that North River Neighborhood District Master Plan that resulted from a commission study done by Sasaki in cooperation with Mass Development and Community Development. Obviously, the leather tannery industry has transformed over the past 30 or 40 years, with the bulk of domestic operations being moved overseas, and therefore the property, being the last functioning leather tannery in the city and among the last in the country, we believe is not fully utilized to its best purposes. This is obviously the North River Neighborhood District Master Plan that Sasaki did in corroboration with the city. And its guiding tenets are to reinforce and enhance a walkable, pedestrian-oriented, vibrant downtown, develop and connect 3 unique corridors that form the heart of downtown, identifying Walnut Street as one of those corridors, and you can see in this chalk where the site is and how it aligns to the other corridors that were identified in that master plan study. And importantly, it specifically identified this site as a site that should be redeveloped in the context of hitting all of these goals. Next, please. And those goals being to allow more multifamily residential in the GBD zone, which is where we are, allow reduced parking ratios within the district, and adopt development guidelines, which we just described, already adopted. That Sasaki plan and our plan before you recognize some of the challenges of the area. We know it floods, although the flooding has dissipated over the past few years, and we contemplate and mitigate those flooding concerns to the extent possible, and we'll be working with the city to install additional flood mitigation through the Lawrence River Brook, and I know Kurt Bellavance and Community Development are working on that right now, and we are certainly willing to be a partner with them as those plans unfold and come to fruition. And obviously with that, we want to enhance stormwater management characteristics, not only on our site, but throughout the area. As I mentioned, the East End Veterans Memorial Park directly across the street adds green space and additional stormwater management and flood compensation, as will the Riverwalk. In addition to being an amenity, that is also designed to absorb stormwater. And the city is obviously planning future improvements to the area, some of which I touched upon. One of the really long-term plans, amenities for the area to reactivate the transportation corridor right behind Veterans Memorial Park to potentially bring commuters to Salem Depot and ultimately into Boston. If we could skip a couple of slides to municipal and neighborhood mitigation and amenities. Something I touched upon, the city is planning a traffic controlled, better managed Central Street corridor, which obviously aligns with Walnut Street and will, as I indicated, include bike trails and reconfigured intersections from Tremont Street through, Wilson Square through Tremont Street intersection at Central through the Walnut Street intersection. The Riverwalk, of course, I talked about, and planned amenities through the project site itself that Tanwright, the applicant, is planning with community development to address such things as making the site and the neighborhood more pedestrian friendly, livable to its existing and future residents, and is designed to be climate change resilient well into the future. And you'll hear about that. We made great effort to do community outreach and to employ municipal comments into the plans and the application you have in front of you. The municipal comments were provided in the project eligibility letter that was issued by Mass Housing on this development, and some of those municipal comments, which we have not only taken into consideration but implemented into the plan, and you'll hear about this through Tony Capichetti and Scott Thornton, to reduce, and by the way, Thad, to reduce heat island effects on the proposed building rooftop by using light-colored materials and provide more covering over the outdoor parking areas, to provide additional pedestrian connectivity, including proposed sidewalks along Upton Street and traversing the site, proposed right turn lane from Walnut to Wallace Street being eliminated. The proposed sidewalk along Walnut Street is now 8 feet in width with 3 areas proximate to the commercial uses and pocket parks that are 17 feet wide for use as outdoor seating and gathering areas for the public, not just for the future residents. Additional outdoor bicycle racks are integrated into the Walnut Street corridor. The Tanwright residence has been designed in accordance with Mass stormwater management standards and provides additional flood storage below the parking areas, almost 1 acre of compensatory flood storage just on our property alone, to retain and delay floodwaters from the North River from spilling out into Walnut Street. We met with neighbors at the St. Facilio's Church on March 22nd to hear what we believe were very constructive, very positive comments. And we integrated a lot of those comments in the plans that ultimately resulted in the application before you tonight. They were obviously concerned and are concerned about density, parking, and traffic. As a result of this meeting, Tanwright residents reduced the originally approved, Mass Housing approved development of 160 units to 140 units. That's a 12.5% reduction in unit count, and increased the parking ratio to almost a space and a half per unit, roughly 1.44 spaces per unit, and approximately 1 space per bedroom, which has been the consistent World Tech goal for developers to meet, applicants under 40B. The Tanwright residences also added on-street parking for public use, resulting in a net increase of 13 on-street parking spaces for a total of 30 additional spaces with 3 dedicated loading zones. Those loading zones were introduced as a direct result of that community engagement. There were complaints about commercial vehicles parked up against Walnut Street to make their deliveries to some of the commercial owners on Walnut Street. We decided, it's a good idea to cut back on the sidewalk a little bit while maintaining the sidewalk, letting those loading and unloading vehicles pass without affecting the Walnut Street flow of traffic. So let's talk a little bit about the development. We believe that this development will set a new standard for future development or redevelopment on the Walnut Street corridor and will really be the catalyst to unlock the value of several underutilized properties in the immediate neighborhood. Once developed, it will serve to strongly boost the downtown Peabody business community while having no negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed building and site are designed for the future, taking into consideration existing flood elevations and climate change. Critical infrastructure and living space are elevated above all projected flood elevations, contemplating that future flood rise. In short, the development is designed in a safe manner, eliminating those adverse impacts on health or safety of the occupants, anticipated occupants, or the public generally, resulting from any anticipated flood hazards. These design elements will, we believe, set a new standard as indicated for the corridor. The development is located on a block bounded by Walnut Street to the south, Wallace Street to the west, and Upton Street to the north and east. The development site excludes specifically Central Bakery, and you'll see the site plans shortly. The project plans to provide a pocket plaza to enhance that customer experience to service not only Central Bakery, but other proposed commercial uses. This is a mixed-use development. The development, as I indicated, proposes 140 units consisting of 14 three-bedroom units. That's the exact minimum required by law, and we're not going to exceed that. 46 two-bedroom units, and more than half of the units designated as one-bedroom units. We believe that that unit configuration will help with some of the concerns of school overcrowding, where we front-load the unit configuration with really single-family, single-person families. The development provides 202 parking spaces on the property, not including the 13 on-street spaces that we propose, and the development adds 3,500 square feet of commercial space. Integrated stormwater and flood compensation on site, and of course, as I indicated, is located in the general business district. These are some of the uses by right and by special permit prescribed by zoning. I won't go into them in detail, but suffice it to say that if any one of these uses ultimately is implemented, you're not going to get any of this mitigation that we propose. You're not going to get the flood mitigation, the stormwater compensation, any of these added amenities that we've really carefully thought out. And you're not going to really mitigate with any one of these uses or any combination of them any of the traffic and density concerns. They're just as, if not more, traffic impactful than what we're proposing here. So with that, we have the site plan that I'll ask through the chair, Tony Capichetti, to address, and then we'll go into the architectural, and there'll be a brief 1.5-minute video showing you the architectural layout of what we propose. So Tony, please.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Tony Capichetti, Hayes Engineering, 603 Salem Street, Wakefield, Mass. Project engineer. Briefly, the project consists of two L-shaped buildings that are integrated with a skywalk that Thad will get into in more detail. We've located the parking with access off of Upton Street, which is the street that runs to the Plan North and East. So all access to the residential units will be off the back Upton Street way. We've added parking and sidewalks along all of Upton Street availed for the public, as well as additional parking down on Walnut Street. This is the loading area that coincides with the location of the Central Bakery loading doors. So it's a 12-foot by 35-foot parking space that is set aside for loading and unloading of vehicles for the commercial use. And then we have two loading spaces for moving vehicles as well as trash and refuse lined up with our utility bay and trash areas for each of the buildings at the rear on Upton Street. Parking for the 2 and 3 bedroom units, there'll be some assigned tandem spaces that'll have a covered carport area to provide some shade as well as eliminate the heat island effects. We've also lined up the walkway into one of the pocket parks directly opposite the two access ways to Veterans Memorial Park across the street to kind of integrate that pedestrian flow path, as well as a walkway that runs through the site for people to shortcut over to Upton Street. As Jason spoke about, we're adding some flood compensation. Some of it is required. Anytime you work in a flood zone, you need to match those areas that you fill in one-to-one. Those open areas, these pocket parks, similar to Veterans Memorial Park, are suppressed and designed to provide flood compensation. But beyond that, understanding the area, we're filling in a portion of the parking lot here. So we looked at it, and it was a good opportunity to use subsurface chambers, but not for stormwater. They're connected with 3 36-inch pipes to this lower area. They don't count under the DEP regulations for compensatory flood storage. However, they will act to provide an acre foot. So basically 43,560 square feet to a depth of a foot of additional flood water. That's almost 250,000 gallons of flood compensation that we don't need to provide under any regulations, but recognizing the issues in this area that we're looking at, and we're trying to provide additional flood compensation, and that's about 1/3 of what Veteran Memorial Park provides in a very limited space. Again, we are managing stormwater in accordance with the standards. The site for utility impacts is pretty minor. As I said, flood compensation we're providing. Project will use about 26,000 gallons a day of water and wastewater. The existing infrastructure was designed for industrial and tannery uses, which use a lot more water. Currently, it's using 13,000 gallons per day in its reduced state. At full capacity, the facility was using nearly 100,000 gallons per day of water and generating similar amounts of wastewater. We'll also have to contribute to I&I funds similar to any other project. Traffic impacts, summarizing the VAI traffic study. They've completed a full traffic study. The access is off of Upton Street. The existing land use, 84,000 square feet is what's there of industrial land. That's about 43 trips in the AM and 57 trips in the PM. If they were to return to a full industrial capacity, that's what you would expect. The traffic study hasn't been updated for the decrease in units, but at the 160 units, it was generating similar numbers, 59 trips in the AM and 62 trips, so increases of 16 and 15 vehicles in those peak hours. So not a substantial increase, and roughly a 1.1 to 6% increase during peak hours, depending on the AM or PM. And then some of the other uses that could go in there by right, retail, banks, medical office, are significantly larger traffic generators, especially with drive-throughs and the like. What I'll do is I'll turn over to the project architecture, which is a lot more pleasing to look at than my site plan, so I'll let Thad go through the highlights of that.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thad Simasco, architect, SV Design in 126 Dodge Street, Beverly. Nice to be here in that beautiful room. I will be as brief as I can. It's a good-sized project, you know, it takes up most of the block. And the goal was to design it sensitively around the Central Bakery area, give some separation between those buildings and our residents, get the mass of the building up toward the upper side of Upton Street and let it come down to the hill. The result of losing the 20 units was that we end up with essentially, you know, a building that actually follows, the height of the building actually follows the kind of the slope of the hill as it goes down toward the park. I think it makes for a reduction of the apparent mass. I mean, that's part of the thing is, in some ways we're looking at it, well, it is a large building. Wanted to almost feel like we had renovated a mill building that might have been on the site where the lines are nice and clean. But we also use some color and texture to take away some of the effect of the mass. This slide is difficult to see. There are basically two wings that come out onto Walnut Street, the one on the far left, then you see the bakery, and then the one on the far right. So there's almost two twin buildings on Walnut. The rest of what you see in this slide is really held back all the way up on the backside toward Upton Street and kind of winds its way around Greg's. Going the wrong way, Tony. So the building, basically, as Tony mentioned, it's essentially two buildings connected by the Sky Bridge, which allows for some redundancy in the use of the elevator. And also in those Sky Bridge spaces are common spaces like a fitness room and those kinds of amenities that might be shared between the two buildings. The color scheme is basically, we looked at tanned leathers from the richest sort of mahoganies up to the whites and the blues, and try to use those colors in the color scheme. So they're basically richer colors that we feel fit well with the district. The commercial space is all on Walnut Street. We've found almost in some ways smaller is better in terms of getting tenants to take those spaces and stay in them. So we have two spaces, I think about 3,300 square feet each on those that might even be divided into half. And then we provide lots of windows and Juliet balconies where folks can stand out and get some fresh air from within the unit.
Somewhere if I could find the mouse. There it is, up on the screen. Play button. There you go.
So this is a view, let me see, how do I stop it, Tony, if I want to pause it? Or can I?
I could just hit the space bar.
Space bar?
Oh, I lied.
Sorry, I should know better.
Oh, no,
It's not my,
pause it.
okay. So this is a video as we come down Wallace Street toward Walnut, where it is a full four-story building sitting on the parking podium, but the parking podium is hidden from view because of the topography. The building has a jog, right? Basically has a brick base because of the wear and tear the building will get on the base, and then that brick kind of runs up the building as we study some pattern. There's a jog back in the building, again, to help reduce the mass, and then these balcony elements come out to add, again, some more interest and texture to the building. And now you see as we come around the corner and head down Walnut, what the view of the streetscape. And this is largely out of the Sasaki plan, ground level spaces, but they're up above the floodplain, so they're entered a bit off the sides. And then in this case, the 3 stories of housing up above. You can see where we lost that floor as we marched down the hill when we went to 140 units from the 160. Oh, sorry about that. Hopefully we'll rush up here. So again, 4 stories that you really see, and then stepping down to the 4 stories that you see down at the commercial level. Then coming down Walnut Street, that corner gets bumped out to allow for some amenity of that space, public use of that space. And coming along, and as Tony mentioned, we align these pocket parks with Veterans Park across the way, so there's some connection. And you can see how the building sort of defers to the building in the middle so we have essentially the 2 buildings, the bluer one and then more the sort of terracotta one on the right. And you can see the Sky Bridge back beyond. So the height of the building, the mass of the building is set sort of off of Walnut where we think it's appropriate. And as we come around and working around the lounge on the corner there. One thing Tony may have mentioned is all of the parking is internal to the site. You really have to go onto the site to really see the parking, which is part of that what was described in the master plan. Either it's in the building or the parking that's on the site is inboard from the street. So there's only a few access points off of the street.
Of course, the mouse doesn't want to show on the screen. There we go.
Good?
Should.
Oh, that's fine. Typical floor plans, they're basically the Ls. We put the large units, the 3 bedrooms on the corners. Those are the orange ones. The purple ones are generally the 2s. And then if they had, some of the units have dens on those inside corners. As was mentioned, the mix was big, I think 81 bedrooms, many of which have dens. 10% 2s, which is 14, and then I'm sorry, 3s, which is 14, and the rest of the 2 bedrooms. So the units all have plenty of light. Those yellow areas you see in the middle are elevator cores, stair cores, and some common use spaces, as well as things like electrical rooms. I think one major feature of this is all of the trash is taken by chutes from each floor of the building down. All the trash stays within the building, gets compacted, and brought out, so there's no dumpsters or anything associated with the residential portion of the building. And then the floors, once you get up to floor 3 where a fire truck can get underneath, we do the connection, and there's some storage units because some of these apartments sometimes need a little more storage. And as I mentioned, things like fitness centers and community rooms happen. And then on floor 5, the building, this is where we took the mass of the building away. We took essentially a floor off of the backside on Upton, and we took the 2 legs that come toward Walnut. We took those units out completely. And those yellow squares up there represent common use spaces, decks, and common lounges where we expect to have some pretty fantastic views of the downtown and beyond from the top floor. So that's the basic view. A large building meant not to seem so large, but also reflect if we think of the area. We didn't want to do a historic mill idea. We thought that we should have a little more forward architecture at the same time, wanting to respect the general forms that a mill building might have. If you're on the corner of Upton looking down toward Greg's in the park and down the length of Upton, you see that. Upton and Wallace looking again down toward the park, and the intersection of Walnut is off to the right there, and the length of Walnut's off to the left. And these are just the 2-dimensional views, which are a little bit harder to discern. Building is 50 feet tall from the basic garage up to the ridge, and then because of grade, he adds a couple feet here and there, depending on which side of the building you're on. That's to the portions that have the full 4 floors on top of the podium. And as I mentioned, not all of them do now. With that, I'll turn it over to Jason. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you have any questions and comments, we're more than happy to entertain them. And also, we'd love to invite you on a site visit and get you into the building, and you can kind of take a walk through history and see the city's last functioning tannery and all of its machinations, and then perhaps get you guys up to the roof, and you can kind of envision some of those views from those outdoor spaces and the crosswalk over what's proposed to be the city, river walk and the downtown. So I'd love to coordinate that with you if the board is so inclined. With that, questions and comments?
Questions and comments?
I guess through the chair, I obviously don't know what the initial plan was showing the 160 before that other meeting, but first impression, this thing's massive. I mean, it is massive. It looks like a medical complex out of Boston. So that's just first impression, just so you're aware of at least kind of my first impression on the thoughts of the size and the nature of it. Just, it looks big.
Which equates to maybe we should reduce it, or maybe you should try to reduce it. What do you think?
More than happy to entertain a conversation in that regard. So.
Well, I don't know about a conversation. I think that's something you have to go back to. Conversation with your, and just as a point of reference, I forgot to mention this earlier, we still are in safe harbor. And we have 15 days to decide whether we're going to claim safe harbor or we're going to move forward on this. I just need to put that out there. Mr. Osborne, what do you think?
I'm in agreement with Mr. Zalotis that at first look, it looks very big. It looks very dense for that area. I mean, obviously, we're willing to listen to anything, but I think it would be wise to consider cutting the density down and cutting it down pretty considerably because it just looks, I mean, it's a great concept. I thought it was kind of cool to keep the central bakery in the middle there. I thought that was kind of neat. But as it's presented right now, it's definitely too dense for that area. Thank you.
Chris, what do you think?
Just initially, you know, I pictured what this is going to do to the schools. You know, Carroll's School around the corner. It's huge. You know, I'm sure the ward councilor, Councilor Peach, has heard some folks that aren't too thrilled about this. Just initially, it's huge. Does the area need some revitalization, some cleaning up? Absolutely. I'm not going to argue that point. It's huge.
You know, besides the fact that it is huge, I do like some of the mitigation and remediation issues that you're addressing, especially for that area. Does anyone know what the height of the tannery is right now? Yeah.
I'm going to fathom a guess here. I think the lower portions are probably 20 feet or so, but when you get to the higher portions, we were up good 3-4 stories, so you might be up to...
Mike?
I'm sorry. The lower portions are, you know, between 1.5 and 2 stories, you know, maybe 20, 22 feet. The upper portions, you're up there 3-4 stories. When you, if you elect to go on a site visit, when you stand up there, you're 3-4 stories off the ground, maybe 40 feet or so.
Yeah, I think a site visit is going to be pretty important here, especially because it'll give us a feel for the current buildings and then what the height is and what it does to the rest of the neighborhood. So,
I'm sorry. I was just going to indicate also by way of context, there is Peabody House, which is kitty corner from us.
Yeah, we know.
And that's about 7 stories?
Yep, let's set a site visit if we can right now. Everybody take a look at your calendar.
I like
You
Fridays.
tell me what's good.
Fridays are always good for me.
What is your name now? Keith. Keith likes Fridays.
There is an existing business going on there, so we're encouraged to schedule this later in the afternoon if possible. Because we were part of the experience of doing a site visit is taking you through the active tannery. So we want to do that.
So I think it's important to either, wait a minute. Either this Friday or the 17th, if it's going to be a Friday. No good for you. Can't do either. What do you think? Oh,
I could make something else work if we...
Chris, Barry, what? I can make anything work.
I prefer the 17th.
Barry can't do that, though. Oh, who, Steve can't do that?
Stephen can't do any Fridays.
It'll be tough. It'll be tough because I got a last day of school and a graduation that day for the kids, so that's going to be a tough sell to.
Any other day within the next 2 weeks? Any other day within the next 2 weeks for anybody?
I could do Wednesday the 15th. But if I'm the only one that's going to hold up the 17th, then just do the 7th. I mean, I know that area well.
Yeah. You all right with that?
Yeah.
What about, we could do, what about Thursday, the 16th? I mean, does that work? Is that one of the, Steve, is that one of the things you said didn't work?
The Thursdays I have
That's the graduation?
No, that would be fine, but I wouldn't be able to go over until probably 7:30.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So if it works the 17th, works for everyone else, just do it that day. If I can squeeze over for 30 or 40 minutes in between, I will. And if not, I can always pop over a separate time.
Okay.
Yeah, we can accommodate you another time, Stephen.
Chris, Barry, 17th?
Mid-afternoon, Jason?
Tell me what time. Site visit. You guys decide. I'm available.
Want to just say 2:30?
2:30?
Yeah.
Barry, Chris, too early? Barry,
On the Friday the 17th at 2:30.
is that good? Friday, the 17th, 2:30 p.m., site visit. It would be good if I put what it is. Site visit, the 17th at, what did we say, 2:30 p.m.? Carla, what does that do for you?
I've been to the site visit already.
Oh, you okay?
With Mass Housing.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm available on the 17th.
Okay. All right, so we will have a site visit Friday, June 17th at 2:30. And at this time, I just need to say that in moving forward, if we move forward from July on, that's when we will take all public participation, questions from the public, for, against, concerns, and at that point, or at this point, I believe we are done with your presentation, and I need a motion to continue this, it will be till July 18th.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Yep.
Any opposed?
Yeah, I just have, just to clear up something there. The Farm Ave appeal, if that's, they clear that up on the,
July?
yeah. Oh, that's in July.
That's in July. That's
So we
going to
won't
be
know
heard-
that by then.
Right.
I wonder, do we have to, can we request the state give us the numbers? Because it might add into our decision of how much we want to reduce these units here.
Kurt Bellavance can find that out. Well,
I mean, I think we should know the numbers by the 17th.
but
'cause-
so if we lose, you're talking about Farm Ave or
Yeah,
King
Farm,
Street?
what if we lose those units?
In Farm Ave? Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking King Street. Farm Ave.
From the state?
Yeah, we'll have Kurt.
All right, so we know. Okay.
So I'll ask him to do that tomorrow immediately, and then maybe whatever we get, Carla, could you please email everybody tomorrow? If he gets an answer tomorrow, whenever he gets an answer? Yep, as soon as we get an update. Great. So we have a second for continuance, and let's...
So when does the 15-day safe harbor end? From today, right? So we're not going to do anything as a board as far as revoking safe harbor until we find out about the site visit and the number? Is that right? Okay. All right. 'Cause I'd hate to get caught in the middle there, you know, it's like, with all the different dates. Okay.
All set, everybody?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
What's this chapel memo? Did we already accept that?
Where's that one?
To accept?
Yeah, no, didn't you read this? Right.
Do you want us to accept it? Okay, I need a motion to accept this CHAPA memo.
So moved.
All in favor?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's a wrap. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.